Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast, hosted by yours truly, Misty Magdalena Grace, also known as Magical Mags. I am an abundance alchemist, helping you alchemize fear into love, pain into purpose, scarcity or lack into abundance, so that you can live your best life, your best health, your best wealth, your best relationships by trusting your best wisdom within. Please enjoy the show, like and subscribe, and leave a review if you see value in this amazing show. And feel free to stay in till the end. You may have a surprise gift waiting for you on the other side of this episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back. Magdalena Grace here. Excited to have you. If you're new to my channel on YouTube specifically, hit the like and subscribe button and maybe the notification bell so you know what's coming up next. I'm back and better than ever, bringing in some really amazing guests. I had a little hiatus from guests for a while, and really excited to kick off spring and the year of the horse with topics that are near and dear to my heart. So feel free to stick around. If you're catching us live, hashtag live, comment below, city and state where you're tuning in from. And if we have time, it doesn't always happen. However, if you have questions, please comment below with questions for me or my beautiful guest today. And so I'm excited. Most people on my channel, unless you're new to my channel, know that I got divorced last year. In fact, my guest knows intimately a little bit too well, because she was supposed to be scheduled like last July, and then I kept pushing her out and pushing her out and pushing her out. And she was so compassionate and so obviously understanding, because she's been in this industry for 14 years herself. And Christie Thompson is based out of the Twin Cities, which is where I'm streaming today. And she helps clients divorce and also handle child custody cases in a way that saves them tens of thousands of dollars and at least 6 months in the court process. And so I know, at least in California, I was forced to have a 6-month waiting process, which was also, why we got delayed, because it was stressful and crazy. And, a lot of people are divorcing right now. So I wanted to bring someone of your background and profession to talk about this topic of divorce. And we'll get to those questions, later, but I'd love for you first to share, how did you get into this industry? Tell us why you do what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, when you're getting divorced, like, it's not surprising that you will reschedule things for your own mental health. So no problems there. So how I got into divorce and child custody law was, I think it was God's calling for me, because I was looking for a job after my late husband passed in 2009, and having extreme difficulty finding work that was flexible enough for me to raise my 2 young children and not lose my mind. And it just so happened that someone who I met at a networking event met an attorney the day after I met her, an attorney who works in family law, Shannon Fitzpatrick, who I will be forever be grateful to. And then she gave me an opportunity. She taught me like more than half of what I know today about family law. And then while I was working for her, then my mentor, Dan Simon, asked me to do the work that I do today. And honestly, I had never even been planning on working in family law. I had been in a good relationship with my late husband, Carl. And honestly, it was kind of like, family law, And the longer that I was widowed, the more people who I met who had been impacted by family law. And so, I really understand the importance of it. And honestly, I know a lot of people who grew up in childhood homes that were not happy or safe. And it's just so amazingly wonderful to be able to help people have happier, safer homes. And I'm talking not just about physical safety, I'm talking about mental safety, because how you grow up will affect you for the rest of your life. So you want to, give your kids a good, solid, start in life that is physically and mentally safe. And so I've been working in family law for 14 years, doing my business for 13. I absolutely love it. Even when I work a lot of hours, I'm like, it's okay. I'm helping people get into happier, safer homes. And yeah, and unfortunately, I can only help people in Minnesota, but there might be someone like me in your state as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, and it's there's so many people out there getting divorced right now, and a lot of people, I mean, even like I know in my family, my parents stayed married way longer. I'm grateful for that because I wouldn't have been born had they decided to get divorced earlier. But a lot of times, people will just stay through the bitter end and white knuckle it, and it can be really expensive to get a divorce, which we talked about. So when you talk about saving people money and time, which is huge in this economy today, right now, it always has been, but really important. Some people are saying married just because they can't afford to get divorced. So do you know the average divorce costs? Like what are the statistics out there?
Yeah. So when people get divorced the traditional way, you can expect to spend between the two of you anywhere from 20,000 to, I've heard people tell me they spent $200,000 just themselves to get divorced. Um,
Wow.
so, my way, because I work with both parties and they are both paying me my much lower hourly fee than attorneys charge, not per person, just, one fee for each of them. And my way has fewer billable hours because we are working together to solve the problems. It's not she contacts her attorney, who contacts his attorney, who contacts his client, and back and forth and back and forth. And before you know it, it's 50 billable hours. And yeah, so it's much more efficient and it's a lower hourly fee. And so that's how I save people lots of money. And I save people lots of time because my clients have 0 to 1 court hearing. So people who don't have children together, they are just going to sign the documents that I write. They're going to mail file them, and then they don't even have to talk to the court. And the people who have kids, they're going to sign the documents, mail file them, and then they will have 1 court hearing. It'll take 2 to 3 months to get that hearing. And then at the end of a 10 to 15-minute hearing, they're divorced.
When you say save at least 6 months in the court process, why is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, because doing the traditional way, like you can expect to spend in the court process anywhere at least in Minnesota, anywhere from 9 months to like a couple of years. When I used to work for attorneys, it was not uncommon for me to be working on a divorce case that was in year 3. And then in Minnesota, we don't have to wait until you can proceed with a divorce case. But like you said, in California, there is a waiting period. In several parts of the southern states, there's a waiting period. And so you can't even make progress until the waiting period starts. And yeah, so that just, adds 6 months to a year onto everything. My clients on average are through the entire divorce process in 2 to 6 months.
No, that's beautiful. And you talked about this before we got on the show, and I know I read the book Conscious of Coupling. It's very popular we want to do divorce different than our parents did,
Yeah,
where it was really anger, fighting, and to the bitter end, penny and penny and, all of that money and all of that. But you really work with people to keep it as amicable as possible, right?
absolutely. That's the third benefit of the way I do things is it's way better for your mental health because it's not a battle. I used to work in that area of law, and I pray I never have to again, where the type of law where it's a battle. I could tell you horror stories, but I won't because I don't want you to know them. And I just pray that like I will always be able to help people in this way because it's collaboration, it's a team effort. The two people share information, and then we figure out, how can this be kind of okay for everybody? Like nobody's gonna be happy here. Like, don't let anybody fool you. Neither of you are gonna be happy. But like, how can we make it fair under the laws of your state? And, and how can we make it work for the kids? We got to make, when you have children, that has to be your main concern. But let's not have it be a battle. Whenever it's a battle, then everybody's like stress hormone, cortisol goes up. And then like that kicks in the fight or flight. And then like people have a hard time making rational decisions. And the most important thing really, in addition to the best interest of the children, is to think about this as a financial situation, not an emotional situation.
Yeah.
And as soon as you can take the emotions out of it, not only are you going to spend less money and less time in the process, but your mental health is going to be so much better. Let's think about this as, this is the last thing that we're going to do together. Let's make it good. Let's make this last thing that we do together healthy. And especially if you're going to continue to share children, because it's really, really, let me tell you, unhelpful to like try to bury somebody and then try to share children with them. It's really bad. It's so bad.
Trust me, I was married to someone who had the ex from hell who took him to the cleaners, and yeah, we got all sorts of threats and craziness throughout the first few years of our marriage, which was a huge consideration in the damage. Like you talk about, the mental health inside of a marriage is super important, and it can probably predetermine how the divorce could go down. Have you felt like a therapist? Are there times where you've had to, like, I don't want to say come in between, but how do you keep yourself like in check to keep them in check?
Well, so I do feel like a therapist sometimes, but I would never claim that.
Yeah.
And I am pretty consistently reminding both parties, how it would be more beneficial to behave in other ways. As far as, how I keep myself mentally well. Because, yeah, I mean, my work is hard. And a couple of years ago, I had a female client look at me while we're mediating and say, I could not do this every day. Yeah. But honestly, I just love my work. I love helping people get into safer, happier homes. And that just really drives me. And after I have a really icky mediation session, I turn on music and dance. And I pet my dog and hug my dog. He's really big. He weighs 121 pounds. So he's like kind of like hugging a person.
Human, yeah.
Yeah. And and then I like going to live music shows and karaoke and yeah, doing stuff. Oh, nature. I almost forgot nature. Ooh. Yeah.
Very grounding. Yeah. And the title of the show is Healthy and Wealthy and Wise for a reason. And you're actually, unless I'm forgetting someone, forgive me if this is you, you're out there, but you're the first person I've ever interviewed that is in the divorce arena. I have had a woman who was a divorce dating after divorce coach, but not a legal professional like yourself, because it is a tricky industry, along with, I think death, divorce, and bankruptcy. Those are some of the biggest painful experiences, right, that we can all have in this lifetime. I mean, my divorce was the most traumatic thing that I've been through, and I've been through a lot of death and a lot of different things. And so I just want to acknowledge you for being so, like, every time, even though I moved away from Minneapolis and San Diego, I thought of divorce, I thought of you, because you're so kind, personable, and approachable. And I think that's really important in this industry, because people deserve to have someone kind and compassionate while they're going through one of the most painful transitions. I'm curious, with all the experience you've had, is there a top 1, 2, or 3 reasons, I don't know, that people are divorcing right now? What are you seeing?
Yeah. And just to talk about the death, divorce, and bankruptcy for a little minute, So I did work in bankruptcy law for a little while.
Wow.
And
Wow.
unfortunately, my late husband and I did once declare bankruptcy after he had a failed business.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've had a few deaths, my late husband and my son. And I have not been divorced, but a divorce is a death because it is the death of the life that you thought you were going to have. And a divorce is the worst thing that most people will go through. And so if you're not your best self right now, it's okay because this is the worst thing that you will probably go through. Definitely, do things to work on your mental health right now, but also give yourself some grace because this is the worst thing you will probably go through. So I just wanted to put that out there. And so like some of the top reasons that I see people are divorcing is they didn't get to know each other well enough before they got married. Oh my gosh.
Guilty. That was my story. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you want to like share anything right now or not.
Yeah, I think it's, I might as well since I'm talking. So I think I see it all the time because now I work with divorce recovery, grief recovery, and addiction recovery with a lot of my women clients, right? And I'm just seeing it even just on my side personally. We dated and you fall in love and you have like this magical journey and you see people through rose-colored glasses, and I'm an empath, so I tend to fall hard fast, even just with friends. I'm like a little puppy dog, you get all excited about these new friendships, these new relationships, and you see the potential of the person and you don't see the reality, and really, really, really ask those hard questions and get into the trauma and the shadow work and really see them at their worst too before getting, betrothed. I think that would be my advice is, and I know you even said something like date up to 5 years before you get married. And I feel like that's a really key thing is, be best friends, fall in love, date, then you have the courtship, and then you become lovers. And then I think that the rest, as they say, will be much, much more solid foundation than what I've seen personally and with a lot of other of my friends who've gotten divorced.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that a lot of people, myself included, don't take into consideration is there are stages in a relationship. And the first stage, the honeymoon phase, could last a while. And so then you need to be like together long enough to get through the honeymoon stage to see if you should, remain together and get married. And so, like 5 years is probably a good amount of time because you should be through the honeymoon stage by then. And, you should be able to see who the person really is by then. And yeah, like a lot of people who've gotten divorced, they're getting married after a year. Oh, you don't really know anything about somebody after a year. I mean, you might know their favorite foods and colors, but nothing deep, like deep. And then another reason that I've seen that people get divorced is that they don't have the ability to understand others. They can't see like, who people are, who people really are. And then when you think somebody is, say, an A, but they're really a B, and you think you're, matching an A, then that's not going to work. And then there are a lot of people who don't know who they are. And so you think you're an A and you're going around and matching yourself with A's, but you're really a B. And I have seen, especially in the last 10 years, a lot more mental health issues, like significant mental health issues and chemical dependency, destroying relationships. And, I'm sure it's, well, we could talk about that forever. So I'll stop right there. But yeah, mental health issues and chemical dependency are definitely a big problem. And then the last one, money. You've got one person in the relationship who wants to spend like there's no tomorrow. And, the other person who's like, wait a minute, I want to retire someday. Or they just don't have the same spending priorities, even if, they're not like necessarily like out of control spending, but it's just like, one wants to spend on making the house amazing, and the other one wants to go on trips, or the other one wants to like save for the kids' education. You like, you really, before you get married, need to do some type of premarital counseling. If you're a premarital counselor, by the way, please contact me, because I only know 2. And I get this question from like friends and family and networkers and stuff. I only know 2. So if you're in Minnesota, please give me your information, because premarital counseling, not everybody belongs to a church these days. And so we need premarital counselors who are not necessarily attached to a church.
Oh my gosh, I think you just inspired me. I may have to go look into that for myself, because I do work with health, wealth, and relationships. And a lot of what I've discovered, kind of backing up what you said on for sure, number 1 and number 3, the marrying too fast, and then the finances. A lot of what I've seen, and I know it was me, I married my wounds. I married my childhood wounds, my ancestral wounds. And he was a perfect mirror for me to look in every damn day. And the core values, our core values were so out of alignment. And I, being an empath, just kind of tried to be a chameleon to fit in with him. So I changed. And so part of that journey was rebalancing my mother-father wounding, my ancestral wounding. We all have hemispheres, right and left, are female and male. And I'm not talking gender specific. These are energies. And so that's one of the things that I remind people of, and why I'm doing my Sacred Union yoga workshop this weekend in Chaska, because if your body and your core values, your heart, which is what I kind of allude to with core values, is out of alignment, then yeah, the marriage is destined to fail for sure. But karmic contracts, I learned a lot. My ex is one of my best teachers in this lifetime, so I gave him a thank you for that. I got a PhD out of that experience.
I am also doing some healing right now, and I am taking an online masterclass about childhood trauma and how you show up in relationships by Dr. Gabor Mate, Gabor Mate. I am working my way through that right now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, we're always learning, and there's so much of that happening on the planet right now. A lot of people are being triggered by what's going on out there. Even this world, this government, all the systems, they're mirrors of what's going on inside of us, and it's all childhood or ancestral trauma. If we don't look inside to heal that, then it's like you probably have a stat on this too, but I know that a lot of times I've known people who've been married 5 times. So basically they married different named people, but it was the same person, because they were trying to get that person to heal, essentially, the way I look at it. Because I think the divorce rate goes up. Like it's 50% on the first, second, after I've heard 67%, and then even higher for third marriages divorce rate. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the psychologists who I know who does premarital counseling, he told me that first marriages 60%, second 70%, and third 80%. And like, if it's your 4th or 5th, like, just forget it. No, he didn't say that. That's me.
No, to be candid with you, I don't know. I'm not jinxing myself, but I'm like, do I want to do that again? Because it's a big decision. It's a big commitment, not just financial. I mean, let's face it. You said it earlier. A lot of us see marriage, sadly, because it's very patriarchal, as a transaction. I mean, women used to be sold into marriage, in hundreds of years ago, not that far, and become slaves of their partners or whatever. It's insane that, that's why I think a lot of millennials aren't even choosing to get married now, because they've seen what we've been through.
Yeah. And one warning for everybody is, if you get married, it doesn't matter if you have separate bank accounts and you kept your finances separate. It doesn't matter. You're married. Everything that you accrue or purchased during the marriage is a marital asset.
Right. Yeah. Or the debts for that matter too, right?
Oh, and the debt, yeah, there's that side too. Yep, all the debts. It doesn't matter if you didn't accrue any of those debts, you're still partially responsible for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet, or anything that you want to go deeper on that you feel is really important for our audience to know today?
Well, let's see here. So, there's a big trend now regarding spousal maintenance. And so I don't know if you guys pay attention to this. It was actually brought to my attention by somebody who I know that there's this big thing about traditional wives or trad wives on social media and glorifying the wife being a traditional or trad wife. And, although I am not opposed to women wanting to stay home and raise kids, or maybe not even raise kids, just, not work essentially.
Yeah.
There are a lot of risks to that. And guess what? The risks are even higher now because in Minnesota and across the country, the length that you will get spousal maintenance if you, divorce is shortening. And there are a lot of more ways that the payor will no longer have to pay as much or pay at all. So imagine that you're a traditional wife and you've been married for 20 years and you haven't been working. And let's say that, you're 45 and you have a couple kids. And because you haven't been working for 20 years, and maybe you didn't get any type of degree either, and you never had a professional job. So when you go back out into the workforce, you are going to be able to make maybe a little over minimum wage. And if your kids, maybe are not completely self-sufficient, maybe you'll be working part-time also. So you will not be earning enough on your own, and you'll want spousal maintenance. Now, you will only get spousal maintenance, at least in Minnesota, for half the length of the marriage. So that'll be 10 years.
Okay.
Now, that can be changed at any time. If the spouse, earns less or becomes disabled, then that could be reduced or eliminated. And practically no one gets, what is called it used to be called permanent spousal maintenance, but it's now called indefinite spousal maintenance. Practically nobody gets indefinite spousal maintenance anymore. So you could be a traditional wife for like 30 years and still not get indefinite spousal maintenance. So essentially, by being a traditional wife, you are putting yourself at risk of being broke within 5 to 10 years. And still having children to raise. And you would get child support until the kids are 18. But bulletin, not all adult children are self-sufficient.
No way. What?
Yeah. And
Shocker.
so then, you have lesser earning ability, and you might have dependent adult kids who still rely on you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that explains why so many people are in the country are living paycheck to paycheck. And I will say that that's where, and this is going to sound, I don't care how it's going to sound. It might sound harsh, but it's true. I've seen it personally. I stayed married longer than I needed to as well, because I thought about, oh, well, I'd be okay on my own. Because when you're a mom and a working mom at that, you're still juggling way more. And most moms tend to be single moms even before they're a single mom in certain marriages. So they're like, should I stay or should I go? And a lot of times it's because of the money. They're slaves inside their own marriage, because a lot of us have, even if we are working moms, it doesn't mean that we're going to have a ton of money in the bank and to be on your own. I know homeless moms. I know so many women who have stayed in unhealthy, toxic relationships just for the money.
Yeah, I talk to women like that at least a couple times a week, and what I say is I encourage you to value your mental health more than your financial security.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to try to borrow money from friends and family.
Yeah.
And think about the long-term consequences of staying in that very negative marriage.
Yeah, especially if you have kids. The kids are watching. The kids are very psychic these days, may more than you and I were when we were children. And so they know probably before you know that it's over. And then you're just leading, I think, doing a disservice by leading a bad example of what true love and commitment really need to be looking like.
Well, absolutely. You were just talking about the mother wound and the father wound. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, hello. Yep. That's exactly, how we grew up. And yep. And here we are today.
Yeah, we're left holding the bag. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Mine are all passed, so I always tease them because I do a lot of ancestral communication with the dead, and I'm always like, "You left me holding the bag. I guess I got to clean up on aisle 6." But here we are. I'm happy to be the cycle breaker because there was a lot of shame around divorce in my family, a lot of guilt, a lot of judgment. We're heading into Easter weekend, right? This is a time where family obligation and a lot of people are, forced to go to church even if they don't want to, or they got to hang out with the family. And maybe it's, again, not the healthiest relationship there either. So those obligations, those rules where you stay till death do you part. And if you don't, oh boy, everybody's going to talk about you. So I don't know if you have any advice or any thoughts around that, because this weekend might be the first divorce at someone's Easter dinner table, the first year without their partner, or the family is going to find out, oh my God, do we walk on eggshells or what do we do?
Yeah. That's super sad. Especially when I worked in conflictual divorces under attorneys. There were like clients who got a lot of shame, and including elderly clients, a lot of shame from their children, which I was super surprised by because, they grew up in that household and everything, but, there's a whole narcissism thing. But anyways, we'll move forward from that. So, just kind of be ready for like the onslaught, like do a lot of like, healing things before you go. Whatever heals you, do a lot of it beforehand. And then remember that most of those people are trying to do their best. So when my late husband passed back in 2009, people said a lot of things that were just like, and so I during the first week, I wasn't so good at this, but after a while I had to remind myself they're just doing their best because, nobody expects somebody to die when they're 39 and they're in shock too and blah, blah, blah. So remember that at least most of your relatives are trying to do their best. And for the ones who are not trying to do their best, just like pray for them and in your head and, and then also remember that, this is like, there are a lot of things in life that are challenging, and this is one of them, and you're going to get through this. And then you can laugh about it with your friends. You can be like, do you know what Aunt so-and-so said? And then you can just like make jokes about it later. Yeah. Like
the first year.
Stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even a full year out of my divorce, and I've had some profound healing moments, but even I distance myself from my family just because their opinions are very different than mine. And so I also want to just share with people, you can say no, and say no to Easter obligation dinner, say no to Easter obligation Sunday service. If you aren't really into that CEO only Christian idea of Christmas and Easter only, and you don't have to do it for someone else, do what you want for you, including hiring someone like Christie for your process to hopefully be sweeter, gentler, kinder, less time, less money. And you don't have to go to battle like we've been modeled to do for so many decades with whenever divorce started, right?
Yeah, my pastor, when my late husband passed, she actually gave me permission to just tell people that's not helpful.
Yes. Yeah, that's a boundary. And people deserve feedback. I remember when I did my grief recovery after I had a lot of death, and it applied to my divorce too, is none of us were really taught how to respond to death, divorce, bankruptcy, any of these kind of taboo, painful subjects, right? So that's where working with someone like Christie or even myself, if anybody is struggling with grief or the decision around divorce, I have helped women navigate even the decision. It's a total sovereign decision. You got to
Oh,
make
yeah.
it for the right reasons, but it's even just a hard decision to make, and you got to come from your heart and come from your authentic self, and not from a family rule or projections from even your friends. You got to do what's best for you.
Yeah, and I am a Christian, and know that God doesn't want people to suffer. God did not create us to suffer.
And actually, Buddha said that pain is not optional, but suffering is. So just know that you want to heal it. If you have grief and trauma, you got to feel it to heal it, though. You've got to do the deep work, like Christie's taking this master class. I have an hour to two a day where I spend still grieving for my divorce and other losses in my life. And we don't give ourselves enough time and space as a society. It's go, 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 do the next thing, get the next appointment, sell the next whatever. But if you don't take care of this vessel, guess what? You will absolutely attract another partner that you don't necessarily love till death do you part, or you'll have dis-ease. You'll create dis-ease, grief. Like that's like lung cancer, heart issues, high blood pressure, all of these different things that people die from if you don't take proper care of yourself. So on that note, Christie,
Absolutely.
it's been so great having you here today. Where can people find you, and how can they reach out to you? And I'm going to put this in the show notes so everybody can get your information.
Yeah, and I can only help people who live in Minnesota. Sorry. And my business is Christie Legal. So you could just Google Christie Legal and it'll pop up, or you can go to ChristieLegal.net. And I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and a YouTube channel. And on most of those social media, it's Christie Legal MN is the handle on most of those social medias. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Beautiful. And I'll put your information in there. And I would also like to say, I don't want to speak to you, I don't want to speak for you, but you were so helpful. You even referred, Dan to me, people around the country. I would imagine that if someone reached out to you that wasn't in Minnesota, you might have a connection or a reference for them to find someone like yourself.
It's possible, very possible. And if I don't, I have an idea that Dan would.
Beautiful. Yeah. Christie's really great. A lot of amazing resources. I have one more question for you, Christie, that I always ask at the end of my show for first-time guests. But before I do, I just want to remind everyone of my Sacred Union Yoga workshop here in the Twin Cities this Sunday. It's going to become my signature. It's great for grief and divorce recovery. It's great for addiction recovery. It's great for anyone who's got some really deeply entrenched somatic, the body has kept the score, stagnation, anxiety, fear, anger, unresolved from childhood too. So if you can make it, again, go to magdalenagrace.com to check it out. And if you enjoyed the show or you know someone who could benefit, please hit the share button. Sharing is caring. And if you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be aware of what's happening next on Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. So Christie, before we close, I always ask, you know, when you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, what does it mean to you?
Well, when you are healthy, you are going to be a lot more wealthy. And you're also going to be a lot more wise, because when you're healthy, you're going to be in the right state of mind to do the things to become wealthy. And when you're healthy, you're going to have a clearer mind. So you're going to be able to use the knowledge that you have better and take in more knowledge better.
Beautiful. Thank you, Christie. It's been so wonderful to know you all these years and to have you on my show. And, you know, I can say I'm grateful for my divorce because it made me think of bringing you on the show. So there you go. Look at that silver lining.
I'm sure you're grateful for it for a lot more reasons.
Yes, yes. Oh, gosh. Oh, how can I count the ways? Anyway, thank you, everyone. Until next time show, here's to your best health, your best wealth, by trusting your best wisdom within so that you can then attract the best relationships in your life, whether that's marriage or not, doesn't matter, because it's, you know, it's better to have those amazing high vibe relationships and connections in your universe. So thanks, everyone. Bye-bye for now.